Welcome to the experience of touching the infinite by opening your mind and heart to inspired readings. I'm Nancy Pfaff, a spiritual director who listens to people share their experiences of soul and psyche. Spiritual direction develops a deeper awareness of the spiritual aspect of being human and is neither psychotherapy nor counseling. There's more about me on the introduction to this series. Jerome Waddle, creator and producer of My Dragon Theater Productions, is watching the chat, so say hi. You may find one of your friends is in the audience. I'd love you to subscribe by clicking the bell, and then you can get notices of when we go live or post something new. The title of this video is Transforming the Soul into Love. After the readings, I'll share a deeply personal experience of transformation. It will be an example of how to face a blind spot in ourselves and bring in the light of awareness. Carl Jung, the famous Swiss analyst, would call this integrating the shadow. As we move on to this Lectio Divina, we'll be focusing on the numinous words of St. John of the Cross, a spiritual master in 16th century Spain. He is known for his mapping and living a spiritual path of direct experience of the great mystery. Because this is a non-sectarian interfaith audience, I use a variety of words for the divine. And tonight, I'll be using St. John of the Cross's word from the reading, which is love, capital L. It's not a tame love, but one that is moving you and me toward recognizing what we really are through all the challenges of our lives. Lectio Divina means divine or sacred reading. For centuries, it's been a spiritual practice of serious seekers as a way of letting the divine speak to the soul. It is a conscious listening to inspired texts which evoke responses in us. These inner movements or movements of the soul can be seen as communications between us and the divine. This spiritual attentiveness creates a space for us to notice the activity of love in us and what the divine wants us to know now. Lectio Divina can be simply a pleasant experience in which to relax, but when taken seriously as an interaction with the divine, it can be transforming. I chose St. John of the Cross because he was a spiritual master who experienced and guided others to experience the full development of the soul. He called this union with God in love. In Carl Jung's depth psychology, it would be called individuation. St. John was a Spanish friar and one of the greatest Christian mystics and poets of Spain. He was a reformer of Spanish monasticism. His reforms removed the social club atmosphere in the monasteries and refocused the movement towards soul. He and Saint Teresa of Avila were partners in ministry in the Discalced Carmelite order. He lived between 1542 and 1591 and was part of the Counter-Reformation. John of the Cross was canonized as a saint in 1762 by Pope Benedict XIII. And is one of 33 doctors of the church. To be designated a doctor of the church, his writings had to have special authority and be considered true and timeless. In his poem Noche Oscura, Dark Night of the Soul, perhaps his best known work, he describes the process by which the soul sheds its attachments to everything and eventually passes through a personal experience like Christ's crucifixion to liberation. The lyric consists of 8 stanzas in which the soul sings of the fortunate adventure that it had in passing through the dark night of faith to union with the beloved. St. John is known for his inspired books on direct experience of God, termed mystical theology. In the book, Living Flame of Love, part of the collected works, St. John of the Cross delves into the divine mysteries of the soul's union with God. He draws us into the immense depth of life-giving prayer and gives us courage to believe in the possibility of change in our own lives, however unlikely or impossible that may seem. This love is in you and is a place that has never been traumatized, has no fear, no wounds. It is completely whole and free. Soul development is the process of shedding what is different than that and becoming more aware of our true selves, which are this love. This shedding process is an awakening to the reality of divine love in and around us through a numinous experience, and then a letting go of everything that is not that. The love St. John felt and knew interiorly is present in us at this very moment. It is a love that is kind, patient, and joyful, generous, unconditional, and eternal. To deepen our experience of Lectio Divina, it's important to prepare our environment, both within and without. For your inner space, for your outer space, you'll want a safe and quiet place for your conscious encounter with the divine. This keeps distractions to a minimum. Have something with you that lends a sacredness to your space, perhaps a painting or holy figure, for it may be some incense or a special beverage. To prepare your inner space, set an intention by saying something like, I'm opening to love. In order to get the most from this time of reflection, there are 4 things to consider. First, really listen to the words of the reading. Ponder them. You'll have 3 opportunities. Second, relate the readings to yourself. Third, be present to what arises. Notice when something catches your attention and note it mentally so you can work with it later. And fourth, rest in that stillness within. We turn now to our readings. There will be one passage read 3 times. The third reading will be a special pre-recorded reading by Jerome Waddle. Let's relax and open as we take 2 long, slow, deep breaths together. Now let's enter that space, a space like no other space, a time like no other time. You may close or soften your eyes. Imagine, feel, or see yourself under a large tree. Let your eyes see this tree in detail. Listen to the movement of the tree in a breeze. touch the tree, make contact. Here is a place you can come to be with the deep rootedness of what is. Let this be a sanctuary for you as you listen to the readings. The first reading, Transforming the Soul. Love works so in me that if there is good or bad in me, love turns them to one sweetness, transforming the soul into itself. And so, in its delighting flame, which I am feeling within me, swiftly, nothing spared, I am wholly being consumed. A minute of silence. The second reading, Transforming the Soul. Love works so in me that if there is good or bad in me, love turns them to one sweetness, transforming the soul into itself. And so, in its delighting flame, which I am feeling within me, swiftly, nothing spared, I am wholly being consumed. A minute of silence. The third reading, Transforming the Soul.
Love works so in me that if there is good or bad in me, love turns them into one sweetness, transforming the soul into itself. And so, in its delighting flame, which I am feeling within me, swiftly, nothing spared, I am wholly being consumed.
A minute of silence. Continue to be present to your experience, to what moved you. Now, as you return from imaginal space, look around your room. Notice shapes. Rub your arms vigorously. And how about a smile? Now recall what you had the strongest response to and make a mental note. One of the keys to Lectio Divina is to expand and share your experience by bringing it forward into a shape, by sharing it with others verbally, writing about it, and creating artwork and poetry, something creative. In that way, you respond to love. You'll find love replying to you through ordinary oracles. Love's response to you could be through a message in a song or a book, an aha moment when you're talking with a friend, a sudden clarity of thought, or it could be a dream. Whatever pops in your field of perception that catches your attention. You might feel tingles. Let me tell you my personal story about the transforming love St. John of the Cross speaks of. In our reading, he says, if there is good or bad in me, love turns it to one sweetness. I experienced this truth last month. Transforming love got my attention when I had a strong emotional reaction to a friend lying to me. At least I thought it was a lie. I lashed out with anger at what I thought was betrayal. This is unusual for me. After accusing my friend, I discovered I was wrong. I had misinterpreted the facts without checking them. So I had to apologize. The whole experience put me in a turmoil, and when this happens, I know there's something dark in me that needs to be turned into sweetness. It's an invitation from love to heal. This means less suffering and more joy, so it's very motivational. I invited the divine to shed light on my darkness. What in me was triggered that I so quickly lashed out and accused my friend? To explore this, I knew I needed to recall a numinous experience to use as an inner resource to counter any strong emotions that could arise. I chose a memory of a direct experience of love to strengthen me. In that numinous experience, I was fully conscious of myself as love. My awareness of self slipped away, and I became vibrant, golden light. My ears that needed healing at that time were healed in that moment. This painting reflects that experience. As I worked with my sense of betrayal, a synchronicity occurred. My email had an essay on the formation of childhood self-concept. It pointed out that children who don't receive the affection they need grow up with issues of mistrust and feeling betrayed. This resonated with me big time. I felt I had my answer to the question about what part of me had triggered my overreaction. My inner child self was wounded from the lack of affection due to World War II and the family turmoil around it. How could I bring love to that inner child hidden in the darkness of the unconscious? I had a gut feeling that if I sat with the feelings of betrayal, they would take me to the feelings of the hidden inner child self. Although hard to do, I sat with the feelings of betrayal, feeling them in my body and letting intuition help me identify what was triggered. It was a kind of acceptance or owning them. At the same time, I held that numinous memory of being love, my ears healing. The triggering emotion of anger opened onto many deeper feelings, feelings of abandonment, fear, anxiety, helplessness, isolation, grief, insecurity, and despair. No wonder I overreacted. Where was all this coming from? In my inner awareness, I experienced love from my numinous experience and the painful feelings holding both. It was a way of holding the opposites so something new could be born. As I waited silently, I could feel the sense of separation and the painful feelings dissolving as my inner child connected with me as a loving mother. The anger evolved to a stronger sense of self that helps me access my power. Love is consuming the distorted pattern and birthing more life. Well, am I completely healed? It wasn't long after this I felt betrayed again, but this time I knew the old habit pattern might be activating it. Instead of being possessed by strong feelings, I had the freedom to note them. This gave me time to remember I needed to check out my facts and did so. Sure enough, the facts disproved my assumption. I had not been betrayed. more humbling, less ego and more love. Also, more trust and recognition that I am that love that I was always looking for. Now, when I feel these old feelings, they signal me to say with compassion to that child self, it's safe. I'm here with you. Let me check out the facts. When I'm triggered, I open consciously to love, capital L, and feel the feelings of betrayal while in the arms of that love, which has a way of healing the old patterns. As I do so, I send love to all those who need the same kind of healing. Transforming love removed my blinders and exchanged them for wisdom, a sweetening of my darkness. This same love is in you. You are this love. I was able to work with my hidden part, the inner child, because of my experience with counselors and spiritual directors. If you're feeling the invitation to do this kind of inner work, do seek out a trustworthy, experienced guide. Now, before we go, I'd love for you to leave us a comment. Tell us what you learned or liked. For Jerome Waddle's readings, just type Jerome Waddle in the YouTube search bar. If you'd like to contact me, email me at sacredquestreno@gmail.com. I'd love to know what moved you. Before we go, I'd love you to click like and share this with your friends. Thank you for joining me. May the love that passes all understanding keep you in peace.